thank you everybody for taking time out for what for 4 Point something is very, very exciting, and that is an introduction of a new product that we've developed. I'm going to take you through that process and what this brings to the table for your organizations. This session is being recorded. It will be made available to you. You can share it out to other people in your organization that weren't able to attend this session. But if you do not wish to participate, you can drop out of the session right now. Again, it will still be available to you if you have registered. If any of you can't get the recording or need the recording in a different format, let us know. We're happy to provide that. It eventually will be posted to YouTube and shared out that way, so you'll be able to get it. We've got two presenters today. The first one is myself. Let me introduce myself. I'm Eric Stevens. I know many of you, but I'm the Vice President of Strategic Engagement here with 4Point. Been with 4Point, it's actually 7 years. I need to update that. Okay, and I've been involved in forums in all their many and varied shapes and formats and types for a very long time, starting with DARIAN through JetForm, through Documentum, OpenText, and into Adobe and 4Point. All right. To give you a little sense of me in my personal life, I have 3 dogs, Bella, Piper, and Buddy, and I love to cook. I love to just take a break from all of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis and just sit down and make some nice food that I can share with my family. The other person that's going to be presenting along with me is Josh Moffat, and Josh is our AI Solutions Architect. I'll let Josh introduce himself. Josh?
Thanks, Eric. So yeah, I've been with 4Point for 3 years. I'm the architect behind 4Point's AI products, which one of which we're going to show you today. I have extensive experience in forms and advanced technologies. Love history, and I'm a big Habs fan, which is good because we're going to win the cup this year. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I was not expecting to see the top of the standings right now, but hey.
Oh yeah, we're going to stay there.
Okay. Please ask your questions in the chat. Okay, there will be a section for questions at the end of this. I'll be going through them and pulling them out. If your questions aren't covered, please let us know. Okay, you can reach out to sales@4point.com with any questions, any additional information if you want a more detailed conversation inside your organization. But ask your questions in the chat as we go through it, and I'll get to those at the end. So what I want to talk about today is forms, the forms you're dealing with on a daily basis, that your users are dealing with, that your customers are dealing with. And while it may seem like you have specific challenges associated with your forms, in reality, everyone has those challenges. And it's challenges because forms are still designed for typing, and they're still constrained by the 8.5 by 11 paper borders. No matter what environment we put these in, no matter what we do, we still force everyone into that lowest common denominator. And a lot of organizations are still implementing a print, fill, scan, and mail in strategy for forms. And from a user's perspective, that's extremely frustrating. Why can't we do this online? Why can't I do this in mobile? Why can't I make this better? From an organizational perspective, that has significant costs because you've got an entire group that's handling paper physical documents, entire industry handling paper and physical documents. So how do we take it and make those better? In addition, we're running into accessibility and language barriers. People are challenged understanding how to fill out the form. Mobile experiences, if they exist at all, are clunky and slow, right? And the issue, the core of it is that we've taken the data capture process of filling out a form and tied it to the presentation layer, tied it to the document that we need out of the end of it, okay? And you need the document, we get that, but we don't have to capture the data in the same way that we present the data. And what we're talking about today is a innovative new way of thinking about forms. And that's what we're going to show you. These challenges of holding forms back lead to high abandonment rates. Often organizations don't even know the level of their abandonment rate because the filling of the form is disconnected from any online system. They don't even know how many are actually being used. So the struggle is they can't count those. But when we can count those, we see that a tremendous amount of users abandon forms because they're inaccessible, because they're confusing, because they're challenging to deal with, and because they're just long and involved, right? We've seen forms with longer completion times have higher abandonment rates, and especially in sectors where we're talking about really important scenarios, finance, those kinds of in the financial services industry, those kinds of industries, right? And organizations and individuals have privacy concerns. Often you'll start filling out a form going, well, why do they need this information? What is this information being done, right? There is also the frustration associated. Well, hold on, don't they know this already about me? Why are they asking about this again? I gave them to that information on the last time I filled out a form. And all of those things result in reduced productivity in the organization, inefficiencies that affect your operations, increased customer support demand, manual error correction, back and forth and back and forth. Users don't like it, customers don't like it, and you don't like it because it's costly associated with it. So what we're talking about today is a brand new way of thinking about your forms, the forms you have today, and how we can use it. We want you to meet DARIAN. And what DARIAN is voice forms. It is filling out a form with your voice. Now, you can type, and we'll talk about that in more detail. But you can now talk to it, and you don't have to print it and fill it out physically. But you and your users get the same compliant output that you have today. And in fact, it is the same forms, the ones you're using today, and we are adding voice capabilities to them. We are not replacing them. And I will emphasize this multiple times. This makes the form filling process faster, more inclusive, it's accessible, it's mobile first, it's multilingual, automatically supporting it. Even if the form is in one language, you can fill it out in another language. And it works with your existing systems. It works with Adobe Experience Manager forms and everything that can connect to. So suddenly it transforms a downloaded PDF to be filled out with Reader into a dynamic environment that you can fill out the form with your voice in a conversation that guides you through the process and still connect it back into your systems. Now you can do more with the same forms you have today. Let's dive into it in a little bit more detail. What is it? It is a custom form agent. It's designed to interpret the XDP-based PDF forms you have today, as is, no changes. What it does is uses that and teaches instantly the AI that form at the time that it's requested. So now we can guide the person through the filling it out by having a conversation with them. And that conversation is aware of all aspects of the form. So if you have something in the form that says, if they click this button or check this box, these fields must be filled out, the AI knows about that and guides them through that process. It is context aware in how it guides the person through it. It's built for enterprise scale. It is built for finance, for governments, for healthcare, because all of it is contained inside your organization using the AI that you have approved for your organization. It is not a special 4-point LLM. It is not a special 4-point AI. Your data does not leave your organization, right? So we built it so that it can scale and so that it protects your data sovereignty. This is a critical aspect of it. And overall, it improves data accuracy, user experience, and reduces the friction through that document form completion process. That is what it does. Let's talk about its key features. First, it's conversational guidance. It is asking you questions, guiding you through the filling out of the form. First, I need this field, then I need this field. It is giving you those hints along with it. But the conversational guidance goes broader than that because it's conversational guidance about the context of the form. One form that we use as an example has 6 pages of instructions before you get to the actual fields that need to be filled out. DARIAN knows those 6 pages as part of the communication, so that if you ask it, where am I supposed to send this form? Well, those addresses were listed in the 6 pages of instructions. It can tell you that information. What are the supporting documents they need? It can tell you those kinds of things. So the guidance goes beyond just reading out a series of fields beyond it. It gives you that assistance. Not only that, it is aware of what's allowed in a field. If there's a drop-down list, it knows what the drop-down list is, and it knows it has to be one of those things, and it ensures that it has to be one of those things. Voice or keyboard input. You can talk to it or you can type as if you would to ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot. All right. It uses those same models, those same mechanisms. It is a mobile-ready interface. Because voice is enabled, you can have a conversation with your phone to fill out the form and still get the compliant document. Because it is using AI's native voice capabilities, it's multilingual. That means that you can use a different language to fill out the form than the form is necessarily rendered in. And in fact, in the demonstration, I apparently have a webinar now. In the demonstration, Josh is going to use 2 languages to fill out the form. It's focused around making it better for the user, radically increasing the user experience and the accessibility around the forms that you're trying to capture the data on, so that your customers, your users, they get the experience that you want them to get, that they want to get, without compromising data integrity, without compromising the document that you need to get. It's context aware, so that it understands different sections of the form. It understands the relationship between the sections of the form. Everything that you've encoded in your forms right now, it understands that. Things like you've put in help text or accessibility tags or those kinds of things. All of that is part of the context, so that the conversation can include that information as prompters, as assistants. If you say, can you describe to me what I'm supposed to do on this field? It has everything that is in the form as the context to be able to communicate that. You can change things as you go along, so that if it misspells something, if it gets something wrong, you can correct it. Even after the PDF is generated, you get to view the PDF, come back to the conversation and say, no, 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 this is not what I wanted, and correct it. So it gives the user the ability to be in control of the data that they're putting on the form to give to you. It is the compliant document. The compliant document is produced. This does not replace the need or eliminate the need for that document. We understand that because we understand forms. You need that document, we're going to give you that document. And it will be the compliant document with the fields in the right place, laid out exactly as you wanted it to, because we're using the XDPs. We are using the same XDPs you're using today to both produce the compliant document, but also to engage in the conversation, to control that conversation, to guide the user through the process. What this also means is that it's very quick. It's very quick to deploy. You don't have to change anything. You're not replacing it. We see DARIAN as a new alternative form filling capability that you put on your forms portals. It is not a replacement for a downloaded PDF. It's not a replacement for a blank PDF. It's not a replacement for pieces of paper if you still need to supply some of your constituents with a piece of paper. It's a new option that lets people do things in completely different ways. It works with AEM. It works with AEM forms. It uses AEM forms as a focal point for both the production of that compliant document, but also as a gateway to your other systems. Many of you have forms where people download them, they fill them out offline, and then they print them, they sign them, and they send them into you. You don't have to replace that, but now you can augment it. And when you do augment it, you get all the power of AEM's workflows, all the power of its integration capabilities, so that now you can route the data somewhere else. You can implement digital signatures when they use DARIAN to fill it out. It is portal friendly. It is designed to be added to your existing forms portal, your existing websites, as a new option next to the form. Download the PDF or fill it out in HTML, or use DARIAN to fill it out. Use a conversational AI. It's integration ready because it's linked to AEM, allowing you to connect to other systems that you've got, other workflows, digital signatures, push the data in, hold the data until somebody receives the form back in. All of these are different possibilities. Let me give you a use case before we go into the demonstration. We talked about this, forms are bound to typing. And one of the challenges with typewritten forms is that they are challenged with accessibility. And many of you have faced that challenge, and we've helped you out improving the fillable PDFs, making them more accessible, but there are limits. So imagine Maria, visually impaired, applying for housing assistance online. Form is long, complex, it's typing intensive. Now, screen readers are good, and there's a lot of good screen readers, and you've done a lot of work to make the form better so that it is more accessible, but you're still talking about navigation, you're still talking about moving through it. It's still not a really good experience in this scenario. She'll probably get it done, but she spends a long time doing it, and there is a high possibility of errors. And what do the errors mean? They mean more cost for you and more frustration for Maria, because you're back and forth trying to get the corrections associated with it. But what if we can use voice? What if the form can listen and respond? So now she has a conversation. Maybe she has a conversation while waiting at the call center trying to get an answer from something. Maybe she's filling out the form that way. Maybe that's an option for her. It reads back the entries. It confirms the details for it, and it gives her the compliant document that she needs to submit. It reduces the amount of errors associated with it, means it reduces the back and forth, the frustration, all of those different challenges that Maria has. And it's as accessible as you can get. You're having a voice conversation to fill out a form. That's what DARIAN gives you. So with all of that, I want to pass it over to Josh now so that Josh can show you this new exciting capability live. Josh?
All right, thanks, Eric. Okay. So for the demo, I'm going to fill out this RESP designation form, and I'll be completing it in both English and French.
Welcome. Let's get started with your RESP beneficiary designation form. First, please provide your family RESP account number.
My family RESP number is 2728536.
Thank you. Let's continue. What is the subscriber's surname and first name?
Je m'appelle Josh Moffat et mon numéro d'assurance sociale est 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Merci Josh. Maintenant, quel est le prénom et le nom du co-souscripteur et son numéro d'assurance sociale s'il y en a un? Si aucune autre personne, dites simplement aucun.
So back to English, there's no co-subscriber, and my full name is actually Joshua Ryan Moffat.
Thanks for clarifying, Joshua Ryan Moffat. Now let's move on to beneficiary A. Please tell me the first and last name of the first beneficiary.
Okay, the beneficiary name is John Smith. Social insurance number is 987654321. Born August 1st, 1989. Address is 232 Rideau Street, Ottawa, Ontario. He is my uncle. His parents' name is Eric Stevens. His gender is male, and the plan trustee should not request grants for him.
Thank you for the details. Next, for beneficiary B, please share their first and last name as well as their social insurance number.
There is no more beneficiaries.
Thank you. Are John Smith and any existing beneficiaries in the account all siblings? Please answer yes or no.
No, they are not.
Understood. Next, I need your signature date and your signature to complete this section. Please say the date you are signing.
So for the signature, you can just use my name and today's date.
Thank you. Now, to finish the form, please confirm. Would you like to proceed and submit the completed RESP beneficiary designation form as entered?
Yes, please.
Your form is now complete and ready for submission. Thank you for your responses.
Okay, so you can see it captured the information we gave it and generate the PDF with the data. And from here, you can take the form or the filled out PDF and connect it to any workflow to completely automate the entire document process. Okay, back to you, Eric.
Thank you, Josh. There. So what did you see there? All right. So a couple of different things. A separation of data capture and presentation. The mechanism that we used to enter the information was a voice conversation. And yet the document that we needed, that came out exactly filled out the way that it should be. It was AI-powered form filling, but it was the user providing the context. All right. This is not AI trying to help them with the content. This is AI helping them fill out the form. It's still the user, and it's still the user validating that that data was correct. It's voice-driven form completion. It's also typing. The person could have typed that in if you were more comfortable with that. It puts accessibility first. And it's a seamless experience that can be conducted over mobile devices, over phones, call centers, all sorts of different ways where we've changed the dynamic. Now I don't have to go get a computer or try to get a PDF working on a mobile device. I don't have to do that. I have a new option associated with it. The PDF is generated at the end of the conversation, and Josh could have come back and viewed the PDF and said, no, I need to make changes to it. That conversation's still engaged. That conversation is still open, so that now he gets the document that he wanted. And you'll notice he corrected it in the middle. So as it's going through and giving you information, you can come back and say, no, that's not how my town is spelt, or no, that's not how my last name is spelt. So it gives you a really, really powerful capability. So some questions I'm sure you have. Let's dive into a little bit more detail. How are we going to price this? All right. So this is going to be priced based on form count, the number of forms that you're putting into production. In other words, the number of places on your forms portal where you're going to put a tag that says, fill out using voice, fill out in a conversational, however you want to communicate that to your users. It's a tiered licensing model. So you choose the tier that matches the number of forms that you're planning on putting in production, and it's priced associated with that. We're doing it as an annual term license with a standard 3-year term. There is an enterprise term tier for custom volumes and for unlimited forms. If you have a very large number of forms and you just say, I don't want to be bothered counting or worrying about it, we can talk to you about how we would price that kind of a thing. But a key factor here, Darian is not charging for the number of users or how many times the form is filled. Now, AEM is, okay, and you, depending on how you're using the AI, that may be, so there may be usage-oriented charges, but Darian is priced on the number of forms that you're putting into production, and if those are filled out thousands of times, then that's, you just got that form in production. What do you need? You need XDPs. You need forms made in AEM Forms Designer. You have those. It does not today support Acrofill, Acrobat forms, but we are looking at mechanisms and we can help you with that if that is something that you're interested in. So if you have those kinds of forms and want to make this available with those, we can have that conversation about how we turn those into XDPs to allow Darian to have those. You need AEM forms, okay? You need a supported service pack, okay? And you need the ability to call external APIs for the AI capabilities, okay? And you need to stay current on the service packs. The first version of Darian today is using OpenAI for all of the AI capabilities. We do have other distribution models that are being worked on. So if OpenAI is not a viable alternative for you, okay, and we know it's not for some organizations, talk to us and we will talk to you about different deployment models that still get you the same functionality in a manner that is compatible with your organization. You need a web content management, a website. You need your forms portal. You need a mechanism, a place to host that experience, that interface that you just saw Josh show you, where it's in the browser environment that's handling that. So you need that, and it needs the ability to access AEM because it talks to AEM to do all of that kind of work. What do you get? You get the component that goes on the web page. You get the AEM forms components and appropriate associated workflows. You get a best practices document that talks about what you should look for in your XDPs and our recommendations for which forms you should start with, what kind of experience you should expect depending on the complexity associated with the form. Those general, here's what you should be doing. You get implementation assistance. We're going to help you set this up. We're going to help you set this up in the web page. We're going to help you set up AEM forms. We're going to help you connect all those pieces together. We're going to help you get that loaded, running, and ready to go. You get Product maintenance and warranty for Darian, we will be making updates. We will be releasing it on an ongoing basis so that you're getting the latest and greatest features on a regular basis. We're also going to offer you a form review. We'll take a number of your forms, review those, and give you specific recommendations about your forms in addition to the best practices that we've put together that says, here's what you should be doing inside of your current forms to make the Darian experience even better. All right. So how do you get started? Well, one of the things that we've set up is a starter pack, a proof of concept starter pack. Many of you are going to go, okay, but I need to test this with my forms. I need to try it out. Absolutely, 100%. We get that. So what we put together is a low-cost option where you can try 20 of your forms for $19,500 and use it for a limited amount of time, 4 months. You can put it into production, all right, if you want, but it's intended for evaluation so that you can try it out, get AEM set up, get it tested, evaluate the experience, decide which forms. You're not limited to just these 20 forms. You can go, okay, I'm going to try 20 forms. No, I don't like these 20 forms. Take them out, put in more, try it till you find the forms that work. And we give you implementation configuration support. If you are interested in this, you're interested in learning more about Darian and how it would fit exactly in your organization, in your use cases, with your forms, contact us, sales@4point.com. We would love to have a conversation with you about this. As you can tell, we're quite excited about this. We think that this is a substantial shift in the way that organizations can think about their forms. But one of the real values is that it uses what you have in place today. It uses your AEM instances. It uses your XDP forms. It takes those and adds new capabilities that would be substantial and difficult for you to try to implement and layers it on with no work on your part. Takes the forms exactly as they are and uses them. And that gives you the ability to add voice, to add conversations, to add a guided experience to the forms that you're using today and that you need to continue to use. So with that, that's our introduction to Darian. At this point in time, I'm open to take. If you have any questions, please let me know. Let me see. So one of the questions, are you looking at supporting JBoss in the future? Well, in fact, it will support a J2E JBoss environment and can be run on those. We prefer that it's on an OSGI environment, but it can be configured. So if you have a J2E environment, then yes, we still want to have a conversation with you. That might be a secondary release, but it is absolutely in our plans to be able to support that kind of environment. So if this is of interest to you in that scenario, let us know. Would this work if the user partially fills out the form and has to come back in the form in a few days? So that is more of a question of how are you handling that scenario? And yes, it can be made to work in that scenario. But the challenge with that is, okay, where are you putting the data? Because the data isn't in the form in the middle of the conversation. What we can do is attach it to a workflow that says, I'm not ready to create the PDF. I want to save it at this point in time. But then we would need a workflow that puts that data somewhere, all right, to save it for future that's indexed against that user so the user can come in and identify themselves. All of that is possible, but all of that would be custom work wrapped around it. And we want to talk through how you want to do that. What are the characteristics of the person identifying themselves back in, those kinds of things. So it's not a native capability out of it. It's a framework we would put around the form filling experience. One of the interesting things about doing it in a framework scenario, and we've done this for many organizations, is that we can apply that to HTML forms. We can apply that to other browser-based forms if you're using adaptive forms. There's many different ways we can expand that framework, not just limited to the voice conversations. So there's different ways of thinking about that. So if that's something that you think want to include as part of the overall experience, then yes, we can do that. It is custom add-on to the Darian environment specific to what you need and where you want to store the data. Couple other questions. How do you make sure that the AI is not making things up? And this is a concern, all right? Because we do know, and if you've used things like ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot on a regular basis, you do know every once in a while it comes back with something that's just not right, just a little off. Okay, and you're not sure whether it's just making a mistake, looking at a wrong website, or whether it's actually hallucinating. So we do this in a couple of different ways. The first is that we are constraining the nature of what is being fed to the AI. It's the XDP data, it's the field data, it's the JavaScript, it's what's in the XDP, and we're using that to put guardrails on what's possible. The other part to that is we're asking the user to fill it out. I'll tell you flat out, we can't control what the user gives us. If there's a comment section, the user can give us comments. You've asked for comments. Whatever they want to write in the form, they can say in the form. We are not controlling the content except where the form demands we control it. This is a checkbox. This is a required field. This is a telephone number. Okay, it's a telephone number. You can't give me an address. It's a telephone number. I need a telephone number. But in the case of other areas, we're letting the user fill out the form. So it's their content that we're providing. And what we do is control the conversation, and the AI is conducting the conversation to gather that information. Now, could it come up with some other interpretation of the field information? Okay, well, it's possible. Again, we put guardrails in place to control that, because we know what's in the form and we understand the forms. We understand the context associated with the questions that are being asked. So we put a lot of controls around that. So when the user is providing the data, is it dynamically saving in the event of the connection is lost? No, it is not. Okay, this is a live connection. Okay, so if we need a saving mechanism, again, that is possible. Again, because it's running effectively back and forth to an AEM server, we can create checkpoints, save points associated with it. That comes back to the same issue of, well, how do we know it was this user? What's the identifiers for it? Have they logged in? Now, if we're talking about internal users where we have identifiers associated with them, they've authenticated to us, then there's a lot of stuff that we can do. We do this today, both in the saving midstream, okay, and in the saving for other, coming back to it later. We do this today with adaptive forms and HTML forms. So the concepts are well understood. We would just be including Darian in that framework. It's not a Darian native functionality, but it is more a framework of how you're filling out forms and should be in the context of all of those. Question. Most of our applications are completed through web-based wizards rather than direct PDF filling. Does Darian support capture data from a voice conversation, then feeding it into a multi-page web wizard instead of a static PDF? That's an interesting idea. We have not considered that at this point in time. No, it doesn't do that, but that is something that we could absolutely look at as a custom scenario, bridging together the ability to use the known output PDF that we're going to use as a mechanism to capture it and feed it to you in a way that flows into the forms. That can link back to the other question on saving midterm and those kinds of things. So I can envision a way of doing that, but again, that would be a custom scenario. Yes, it supports dynamic XFA forms. Okay. Encrypted or protected forms depends on the situation or scenario. Have a conversation with us about if you have encrypted or protected forms. In this case, you're talking about government forms where you're using the government forms in the same way that you would be interpreting those government forms. There are mechanisms that we can use to transform those forms so that they can be used in this mechanism. Okay. How does it suggest supporting documents? It uses the context that is provided in the form. So that example I gave you, which was in fact a social security number, social insurance number application form, the information about supporting documents was in the form. It was part of the form context. And so one of our recommendations on best practices is adding in more help text, maybe after the form as additional pages or whatever, that then the AI can use to provide that greater context. And so maybe the DARIAN version and the non-DARIAN version are slightly different XDPs that have more context to give the AI more context. But where it's getting that is from the form. It's getting all of that contextual information. If that information is not in the form, then no, it doesn't have it. It's not going out to the web. It's not trying to figure that out. It's not trying to help them. It may, because a lot of forms include, if you have more questions, contact, go to this webpage. It can give you that information, but it's whatever is in the form when you give it to it for the purposes of filling out that form. Does the voice AI check for inconsistent or contradictory answers and validating the information before finalizing the form? Yes and no. Okay. What is happening? So is the validation handled in real time during the conversation? That's a yes. Okay. If you attempt to give it something or force it, for example, the form field has been identified as required. That's a required field. If you say, I'm going to skip this field, it goes, you can't. No. Okay, so it's forcing that validation in real time during the conversation and giving you feedback about that. Okay, but if somebody says, okay, so what's your email address, and you give an email address and it says, okay, I need the email address just to confirm it, okay, in a second field, and you give a different email address, it'll call that out and say, well, hold on, they're supposed to be the same. Okay, if the form has those kinds of things. But if somebody gives contradictory pieces of information or the same contradictory pieces of information, no, it's not. It's trying to cross-check that, but no, it is not enforcing that. If someone in a comment, a text box, says something that negates some other piece of information, we're not validating against that. We're not, for example, cross-checking addresses. Now, it's important to note, this is letting the user fill out the form in the same way as if they were writing things in with a pen on a piece of paper. The piece of paper is not checking. It is saying this is supposed to be a telephone number. If they write their address in the telephone number field, then there's nothing you can do about that at this point in time. What we're adding to it is the ability to go, no, 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 that's a telephone number. I'm not going to put an address in it. It's a telephone number. I need a telephone number. So it is doing that level of validation based on what's defined in the form. But if there's multiple scenarios where they could contradict themselves on the form, well, first off, that's probably a poorly designed form, but no, we're not cross-checking the responses that the user is providing, other than does it match what we need in the form. For multi-form applications, does the voice AI handle shared fields across all forms? For example, if the user gives their name once, will it autofill that? It will autofill that inside the same form. If you have multi-forms, each one is considered a separate one in the current structure that DARIAN is on this release. It is possible that we could do something more interesting in a multi-application. That's a conversation we'd have to have separately. So please reach out to us so we can have that separate conversation for you. When applying signatures, is it, well, first off, it does not apply signatures. This is, again, producing the PDF For then, if you wish to push it into a digital signature scenario, then you could use Adobe Sign, DocuSign, or whatever digital signature mechanism. So it gives you the opportunity to add this to a digital signature mechanism, but it is not applying signatures. It is not connected to a PKI. It is not doing anything like that. That would be a separate product set that you'd want to integrate with. The assumption here is that either you're okay with a name inserted in the signature field, or you want them to download it, print it, sign it, and then scan it and send it back in. In other words, duplicating the same experience that they have today. Do we need to have an AEM license for this today? Yes, you do need an AEM license. We are exploring some other options associated with it for smaller organizations, but the product is focused on an AEM license mechanism right now. Yes, you need an AEM license. A lot of great questions. If you do have other questions, or you want to explore any of the different use cases that you've described, or the different situations or scenarios, or expansion of it, or application in how it would fit in the kinds of things you're trying to do, please reach out to us, sales@4point.com. Happy to have a conversation with you. We can dive into your specific use case, talk about how it would fit. Thank you all so much for your time. I really, really do appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you and deploying voice-enabled conversations to fill out forms in your organization in the near future.